Hi, my name is Glenn Zimmerman. I'm glad to be back with you again. I know it's been a few weeks. Today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, uh, as you saw the title. The title said, Don't pee on somebody, don't get peed on. Basically, it's an analogy, and that's what I'm going to be explaining now. I want to paint a word picture for you, and I want you to visualize what I'm about to tell you. Now, I'll go back to second, an analogy. And I'll read a definition here of what an analogy is for those of you who might not know or be clear. And I went to, in my day, being as old as I am, back 80 years, we would go to Webster, Merriam-Webster, the dictionary. That was a final say on a lot of things. Today, we go to Google. Okay, so Google tells me that the definition of an analogy is a comparison between two things, typically at the purpose of explanation or clarification. Now, that's what this is going to be. This is going to be an analogy. This analogy came from one of my daughters, uh, and I'll go into that a little bit also towards the end of the purpose behind it and why this came about. But anyhow, the title: Don't pee on somebody and don't get peed on. All right, here's the word picture I want to paint for you. Picture, and I'll use for this picture, I'll use the term guys, two guys, okay? It could be the other sex also, but it's easier if we picture two guys. When we picture two guys naked, okay? And they're standing basically in each other's personal space. Okay, now I digress again. Personal space, we're not allowed to be in each other's personal space nowadays. We have to maintain 6 feet. But I looked up personal space, and I didn't know it. But there are personal spaces divided into 4 zones. Okay, who knew? I just assumed things. The first zone is the intimate zone. That's where you're 2 to 4 feet apart. Sometimes you're hugging, sometimes you're romantically involved, whatever. Sometimes you're close to whisper or whatever. That's the intimate zone. The next one is your personal space, your personal zone. And that's generally 2 to 4 feet apart, depending on the person. You've all talked to someone and they seem to get in your personal space where they're right up in your face talking to you, and that's just their personality. And it makes you uncomfortable, so you kind of back up a little bit. The next one is the social zone. Now, social zone is 4 to 12 feet, where you're kind of talking back and forth. You see somebody at the store, they're coming out the door, you're going in, you say hi, whatever. And then the other one is public space, public zone, and that's more than 12 feet. So that's just everywhere. So anyhow, now we know what personal space is. So we're talking about these guys are somewhere within that 2 to 4 feet of personal space. They're both standing there naked. One guy, we'll say one of them is you, and the other person takes and pees on your leg. Now what happens? Your leg gets wet. Okay, and you're like, okay. Now, then you go ahead and you come back and you put on a pair of pants. But that guy pees on your leg again. What happens? Well, the pee is primarily on the pants, but you still might get a little bit of damp. Okay, you both leave and come back again, and this time you both have on a pair of pants. The guy pees again. What happens? Well, he pees in his pants and it stays with him. You don't get wet at all. Nothing happens. He's the only one that gets wet. Now you wonder, okay, that's a great story, okay? And it was a cartoon, and my daughter sent it to me. And what's the basis and what's the purpose of all this? Why are we talking about one guy peeing on another? Okay, like I said, this is an analogy. And what this is an analogy for is a face mask, okay? I'm sure some of you knew where I was going with this. But it's an analogy of a face mask. And the same thing applies. If you have a mask on and somebody coughs or sneezes, spits when they talk, you've been around people that just for some reason spittle comes out when they talk, and you have on a mask, you don't have on a mask, like the first guy, then you get that all that on you. Okay, but in fact, if you have on a mask, you may get a little that still comes through. These masks are not foolproof; they don't hold back everything. But if that person's got a mask and you got a mask, and he coughs, sneezes, or spits when he talks, it stays with him. You don't get it. Okay, that's the whole purpose. Now, I've never been a big mask person. But like I say, my daughter convinced me basically through this analogy. She has a daughter. One of her daughters does not have an immune system. Basically, she's had some medical issues and problems, and basically, she does not have an immune system. So she is really susceptible to anything, whether it be a cold, a flu, or this virus. So they're really, really protective and really worried about this and trying to do everything they can to protect themselves and other people. And so consequently, that's what when they're around anybody, they're hoping that they either maintain more of a distance or that they also are wearing a mask. If you can do both, that's even better. So this whole thing was about masks and the analogy. And it says, don't pee on somebody, don't get peed on. You can change that to, don't spit on don't spread whatever you got to somebody else. But by wearing a mask, you won't. And hopefully the people you're around will have a mask also. This is just a short video. Like I say, I haven't been around for a little while. I'll be getting back to producing more videos. One thing I've forgotten in every other video, and I'm going to say it now, and that is, I hope that you will subscribe and that you will like the videos. I plan on making more. And you might think, well, wait a minute, this is supposed to have been a survival series for seniors. Okay, well, this is survival. I mean, this is about as survival as you get, trying to prevent getting the COVID virus. And it doesn't matter whether you're young or old. This mask thing applies to everyone. So I would urge everyone, when you're around other people, here in this state now, if you're in any kind of situation with other people, you have to have on a mask. If you're outside, even if you can't maintain social distance, you have to wear a mask. If you're inside any kind of building or any public place, and you have to have on a mask. Most stores that I go to have went to people actually standing at the door. And if you don't have on a mask, you can't come in. You can't shop. You can't take your money in there and get rid of it. Okay? They won't let you. Some of them will furnish you a mask if you don't have one. Others will say, go get a mask. You're not coming in until you have a mask. So the masks are not totally mandatory, but the businesses are establishing it where pretty much they are mandatory. If you want to do any kind of business, if you want to go and do any kind of business, you're going to have to wear a mask. Okay, it's just part of what the world is coming to. We need to all get through this. Where I live, there's a senior complex next door, all these apartments, and it's still in lockdown. I can't go in there. I used to go there to the dining hall. That's where I took my meals. I can't go in there, and anybody that does go in there, it's very, very tight protocol. Just other caregivers and people who work there, and they're all wearing masks. They're all using disinfectant. They're all washing their hands. They're getting COVID tests quite frequently. All these things, and it's all to protect people, not just us old people, but to protect everybody. Because if you look at the statistics and you see what's going on in the news, what they keep announcing, it's not just us old people that are getting it and dying from it or having lasting complications. It's younger people too. Okay, so this applies to everybody. And so when you say it's survival, this is a very good survival tip. Just take heed and wear a mask. Now, again, I ask that you subscribe. I'm going to cut this off now, and I'll be getting back to you shortly. Thank you again, and have a good day.